Today's episode brought to you by the good folks at Filipino Worker Center. From the heart of historic Filipino town, PWC focuses on providing programs that help meet the immediate needs of workers and their families, while at the same time building their leadership to take collective action for long-lasting change. This episode of Voices is sponsored in part by Tatang Restaurant in North Hollywood. This modern Filipino eatery boasts classics like Olympia spring rolls and sizzling C6 stir fry made with free-range chicken and organic eggs. Whether you are looking for a taste of home or are a Filipino food first-timer, head to Tatang in NoHo. Tatang Restaurant, we share Filipino flavors and traditions.
And welcome to another episode of Film Creative Voices. We're your hosts. I'm Arlene de la Pena.
And I'm Walter Talents.
And today we have Chef Extraordinaire.
Yeah.
We have Ralph Degala today, and he has been on Masterchef recently.
Yep. Shout out season 9 Masterchef.
What?
We in the building.
Those shows seem so intense. I mean, like it seems like everybody's like so cutthroat with each other, and
Definitely. I mean, the judges are savages, the contestants are savages, but it's actually, there's a certain camaraderie between the contestants. You know, it's like, I feel like even 2 weeks in, people were getting emotional, like people going home. It's like, I mean, this is how emotional they got. It felt like we were going to battle and people were just like dying every week. So that's pretty bad analogy, but it felt like that. But it was a great experience, and yeah, loved every bit of it.
it seemed like really like cutthroat and
Sure,
emotional watching it.
Definitely, it was much more emotional in person than it was. I felt like I was watching the show in person when we were like competing, so it's a lot more crazier in person than it was in TV.
I mean, like, when you first got there, were you guys sizing each other up? Like, how'd that feel?
Who's
like,
got the sharpest knife?
Yeah.
For sure, bro. It's like, yo, it's like, it's funny because you literally, without talking about the whole process, you show up and it's like, who's the same, like, you know who's your doppelganger, right? There's like the same types. So I found the teddy bears. That was our typecast. That was my typecast. I was like, literally, because we were like, hey, did they make you do a segment on being like a teddy bear? I was like, yo, funny thing, like, yeah, they made me say I was a teddy bear, but but it was cool. But not even that, just that. It's like, from personality wise, but it was like cooking wise too. It's like, oh, what do you cook? How long have you been cooking? All those questions come up, but the people that were more relaxed and who just focused on being themselves and practicing more on their story and how I would present my food were probably the ones that were more successful then. It was like the petty stuff got there, but it's the people that were authentic to themselves were more successful. I think that's how I actually got past all those rounds. I was like, I'm Filipino. I love Filipino food. Shout out to the Filipinos and shout out to Houston, Texas. That's it.
Yeah. So when you say got past all those rounds, are you saying you not understand?
Yeah, how many rounds were there?
How many rounds we talking about?
We know you did
Let's just put it out there right now.
We know.
Where's the title belt?
Yeah, because I mean, like just watching that show, and then like you can save people, you can
Exactly.
like you get to choose who's gonna be in the challenge rounds. Like, oh my god, it's so nerve-wracking watching all of that.
Yep.
And I can't imagine like the fear, and because I'm sure the audition process too was very different than being on the actual show.
Yep.
Can you explain like what that was like for you?
Exactly, and I can talk a little bit about the audition process. So, it's about 10,000 people that auditioned for the show, and that's no exaggeration. Like they were like, yeah, there's about 10,000 people that auditioned, and then because they went like major cities, New York, L.A., Houston, San Fran, Vegas, Dallas, the Mideast, Chicago, and it was so they literally looked for the best that would be on camera. Or I don't actually take that back. I don't know what they were looking for, but all is like there was definitely some competition this season, and it was like about a 6-month process for the actual initial audition to get to like the final 43 or whatever. It was definitely a process, but it was one that was fun, and I learned a lot not only about myself, but the people around me, because it's it's not just you that's getting on Masterchef. Like my wife, was supporting me throughout the whole thing. My family, also my friends. So
and you're representing like all the Filipino chefs out there,
exactly.
guys.
Shout out to all the Filipino chefs.
Keep cooking.
Filipino food movement. I'll segue to that. I think one of the main reasons I auditioned for the show was that the Filipino food movement is going strong in America. And I told myself, you know what, Ralph, like it's good. I've been supporting places in different cities. It just makes me happy when I see people succeed, right? I'm like, it doesn't have to be me, but like, I just love it when people succeed, because people put their lives, all their savings and all their passion into that one project, and it's dope to see it do good. The funny thing is, like, somebody had tagged me for the auditions when he was coming to LA. I'm from Houston, Texas, but I live in LA now.
H-Town.
H-Town is in the building. And then I was like, yo, I can do this. It's only home cooked. So I was like, you can't be a professional chef. I was like, at that stage, I was like, I'm not a chef. I just cook a lot. You know what I'm saying? So it was
that sounds like a song right there.
Shout out to pun. Shout out to all the players. You know what I'm saying? But it was dope, and I truly wanted to represent Filipino, not only Filipino food, but being Filipino.
How would you describe Filipino food to a non-Filipino?
Yeah, Filipino food is definitely not healthy, but that's the one thing is like it's not healthy. I always give people in the Filipino food movement. I always ask them, hey, can you name me three veggie based dishes? And it's very hard because I can think of like lying, pinakbet, and then that's it, dude. You literally like you have two, and then everything else is like meat, soft stews, or like fried. It's a lot of fried food.
Yes,
I was like gonna say you get torta without the ground beef.
Tortang talong, which is like eggplant without the meat.
Omelet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's actually one of my favorite dishes.
It's not the same though.
It ain't the same. You need that. You need that ground beef. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, how I would describe it is though, like when they were asking me on the show, like, what is Filipino food, Ralph? What is this whole Filipino food movement? And I was like, I kind of, shout out to, Maharlika in New York. They explained it very well. They were like, it's a true fusion. I hate the word fusion, but it's like an organic fusion of Southeast Asia. It's like a lot of Malay. It's a lot of like Indo-Muslim,
Chinese, Spanish.
Countries, Chinese, Spanish. Americans with the hot dogs and spams. Like it's even the Portuguese. So it's a natural fusion that eventually happened in an island, and that's what our dish is. So it's like you take some of the dishes that we have that's getting popular in the States. I think it's because it reminds people who didn't grow up eating Filipino food of other dishes. For example, like pancit, like this noodles, right? But people have had lo mein. People have had like, I don't want to say pad thai, but it's so it's like noodle related. Kare kare. I remember I cooked kare kare for some of my friends in college. And they're like, "Yo, it's just like masaman curry." We're like, "What is that?" So they're like, "Nah, that's good kare kare," but it's very similar, and that's our food, man. It's very familiar to a lot of palates, but it's unique to its own.
Which is like when I first made or learned how to make kare kare, I was making it and I was just, melting that peanut butter, right? And I was just like, wait a minute. And I was like, and then as I was making it, I was like, I realized like, wait, this is like the Filipino version of a curry, but they probably couldn't find curry spices at the time. So they were just like, what can we make? Oh, peanut butter.
Exactly, bro. That's how it ended up, man. And, it's still, there's like this mysterious like origins of like orange chicken.
Yeah. Oh.
I've always like wondered like who invented like Filipino spaghetti. I was like, who was that person? I was like, yo, forget it.
It wasn't my Lolo?
I'm putting hot dogs in this mug. Like, forget it. And it's like,
well, it's amazing because like Filipinos you thought of peanut butter to make kare kare, and then like to make dinuguan they use Nutella. So
I've
right?
never seen Nutella.
Really?
What?
Chocolate meat.
Chocolate meat. Oh, damn.
Right.
That's hilarious.
So eat dinuguan. It's basically chocolate.
That's different.
Chocolate meat dish. It's made of Nutella.
We use something a little bit more natural.
That's how they got me in the beginning. They were like, yo, it's chocolate meat. You find out it's like
But they
hella
are like,
pork blood. Actually, like the most, I got a dinuguan story if you guys want to hear it. The most savage thing, I was like 12 years old. I was with my little brother. We went back to the Philippines, and I forgot what year that was, but we had went back, and my mom's side, they were like growing this pig, right? Or kind of raising this pig for a while, because it's been a while since we got back to the Philippines. And so we were like, oh yeah, man, we were playing with, me and my brother were playing with this pig. Like, yo, this
Can't
pig
get
is
attached,
so
dude.
chilled. Like, yo,
Can't
this
get attached.
pig is so chilled, bro. Like, and then fast forward a day later, this is going to be very graphic. So, you know, I'm sorry, vegans, but it's like, yo, I saw this Tito like just get like a bamboo stick and just hit it on top of its head. Like it was like a samurai strike. And I was like, oh my God.
They didn't even use
With
straight
one
up the
strike,
knife?
you
Yeah,
got
one
him?
stripe. I was like, and then he
Wow.
knocked it out, and then, you know, but you know, this
You gotta slit.
you gotta,
That's
like,
still-
yeah, and then
You
after
gotta-
that, you gotta like, you know, you gotta get the blood.
Yeah.
It's an homage.
It's
Like
work,
that's
man.
how they kata it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's, you know, of course you can argue it's like there's a lot of humane things, but that's how they make it. But
Right.
but they took care of that pig, yo. It's like organic.
And nothing's wasted.
Non-GMO pig right there. It's been living in the farm. Like, yo, that pig is like lived a life, you know what I'm saying? It just, but yo, it's pork blood. That's my story. I don't know where that was going, but
You're ruining my Nutella story.
So you had mentioned your wife like supporting you through, you know, the whole process of being on
Definitely.
the show and being on reality
Yep.
TV, and what does she think about, you know, everything that's come about from this? Like, because I'm sure like there are people all across the U.S. in the Philippines who are
Yep.
like, Ralph.
it's dope. I mean, she's been writing it with me too. She's like, yo, did you know, like, I'm gonna create a Twitter and just retweet everything that has your tag in
cool.
it. So it's cool, man. Like, first of all, shout out to all the people supporting me on Twitter and social media. It's a blessing. But yeah, she's actually been kind of like my social media manager. You know,
And
just-
she's a blogger too,
She's
right?
a blogger. She does like makeup videos on YouTube. That's actually kind of how I segued to Masterchef, because before that I love food, right? And I was you know, on YouTube trying to look up like different recipes. And I remember like watching it with my wife. She'd be like, is there one in English? Because they're speaking Tagalog. Of course I could understand Tagalog, right? And then I was like, actually there's barely any. And so I was like, yo, I'm gonna create like a pancit one. I'm gonna create a beefsteak one. And so that's how she was the one that filmed it, edited it. So she's always been supportive of me. So, and when that content came out, it got a lot of great feedback. Like, oh, you know, like, Ralph, keep doing this. We love it. And you know, when I sent that to MasterChef, I think it was like one of the, you know, catalysts of getting me across that audition process. So,
But at that point, like, how many videos have you made?
dude, I'm not gonna lie, I only made like 3. I only made 3, but it was like,
You gotta make 3 minimum, guys.
like,
You
but it
make
was just
on.
hella good.
three's
the
a
lucky
charm,
number.
family. It has to be like,
Humble brag. I only made 3.
it was like, it was a legit 3, and I was blessed. I got lucky, and it was 3 that, you know, I wasn't trying to get subscribers. I wasn't trying to get followers. I literally just wanted to put content out there like a lot of people do, and it's amazing when people just put content out there just because like it's for them, right? And for me, it was just because, you know, beefsteak is one of my favorite Filipino dishes. Whenever I left home, that was one of the dishes, like I would go to a carinderia and just like grab one with rice, because I'm like, kind of remind me of my dad, right?
Yeah.
Pancit, same thing. Every time I get pancit, I'm like, yo, dude, like, it reminds me of my parents, and so on and so on. So I wanted to make those recipes and show people, maybe like, you know, a lot of the Phil-Am first generation who don't speak Tagalog, you know, how to make it. And it has my own like twist to it. You know, I had some like hip hop, R&B instrumentals on in the background.
Oh,
It's like
I love it.
different shots. It's me, and it's great. So everybody's making content. You know, just keep creating, and then hopefully it'll like lead to something.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to your wife, or she edited it.
Yeah. Shout out to Michelle Nguyen. You can subscribe to her. She's a makeup video. Good looking out, man.
Yeah, dude.
I got you, bro.
Dude.
Hey, Michelle.
We have cameramen behind here just nodding their head.
Yo, she's the real MVP. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's the real MVP though. She's, you know, it's always great to have somebody support you throughout, you know, anything. Because man, I'm always like jumping around, so it's a blessing.
That's dope. You spoke about your family. Like, tell us, like, where did you grow up, and were you born in Houston and born and raised there, or were you somewhere else? And you said earlier your family's from Saudi, or
Yeah. So just quick background on that. So the MasterChef show is not showing this right now, but my whole spiel was like, I showed up in Hollywood. I was like, yo, I'm the Trilipino cook. They're like, what the hell's a Trilipino cook? I was like,
what's that?
I'm from Houston, Texas, but I bleed Filipino. And then, so it's like, and the word trill comes from, you probably, it was Texas. It's like, it's keeping it true and real to yourself. It's like a Bun B word. I think Bun B made it popular, trill. So I was like, Trillipino. But, early beginnings, I was born in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So that was in the Middle East. And then 1998, I moved here when I was like 9 years old. Moved to Houston, Texas specifically. And, went to middle school, high school, eventually graduating from the University of Houston with an accounting degree. So that's kind of like my way. But, for my parents to even get to the whole journey from them going from the Philippines to the States is actually much more, I'm much more appreciative of that journey, because I think it's one that resonates with a lot of people. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't think I can make that sacrifice now. Where I just leave my family, jump into a plane, go overseas, work for I don't know who the hell I'm working for, how much I'm getting paid, but it's it's going to be for the betterment of your family. And it's like, it's a lot of this true story of an OFW leaving Philippines when they're like 20 years old, going to a country they have no friends, no families in, and just like building a life around that. And so,
did they meet in Saudi? Or?
Yeah, it was crazy. So they met in Saudi Arabia. That's where they had me. You know what I'm saying? They're both nurses. So shout out to all the Filipino nurses.
What's up?
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, they met there. I mean, my mom, she worked as a nurse in like Lebanon, Syria,
cool,
other countries before going into Saudi. So it's Saudi is always gonna have actually a piece of my heart. So
wow,
there's a lot of princes in Saudi, right?
Yeah, princes, empresses. Shout out to Hey, pause.
Just Princess Jasmine.
Yeah, Princess Jasmine. Yeah, pause on that one. Yeah.
Speaking of which, recently in the news, I mean, and I find this like an interesting nexus having you here, and then your wife being a beauty blogger too.
Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah.
Do you know the Saudi story?
You know
I've heard about the story. Yeah.
So for all you guys who are not familiar, this beauty blogger, she's a Saudi national, and she was recently criticizing this bill that's coming out because allowing Filipino overseas workers or OFWs to be able to keep their passport and get a day off, 1 day off. And she went on a rant on Instagram, was it?
I don't know if it was on Instagram or Facebook.
But she went on a rant on social media about like how dare they have a day off, like 1 day off,
right.
And how dare they get their passport.
And now there's a lot of people just writing her, telling her that they're demanding a public apology of what she's saying, and it's sad. It's sad to hear that it's hot in here.
About to go ham on this one.
right, let it all out.
Yeah,
and it's sad because so many of our family members or our own family members have worked overseas and have gone through that part of their lives, and it's really sad to hear that there's people with influence just destroying the support for something that could better humanity.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that blogger, that was kind of messed up. I'll take the stance of she's definitely wrong for that. I mean, I would, for people that watch it, try to see what she really is trying to say. But my take on it was like, I don't even know where this is trying to lead to, but that's messed up. It's almost like indentured servancy. Right?
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
I mean,
she acts like she's above all
them.
of
Yeah,
them.
and to me, it's like I empathize with a lot of Filipinos, not only Filipinos, but a lot of like Southeast Asians that work in like Middle East. They're probably not treated fairly, but in my eyes, that's why I love Filipino food. I mean, this is like a hella segment, but this is why I love Filipino food, right? I remember growing up and going to a lot of potlucks in Saudi Arabia, and this is me as like 8 or 9, but I definitely could like feel this already, where you have a lot of titos, kuyas, ates who don't have families in Saudi, and all they really have is each other. And what brings them together is that potluck and that taste of home. It's what resonates. Having pancit at every potluck. You know, they have that one person that's cooking kare kare or dinuguan is always going to be there, and it just makes it happy. Because the sad truth is, a lot of these workers left Philippines for these like empty promises.
Right.
And it's a sacrifice that I respect so much, because for a lot of Philams, when we go back to the Philippines, it's great. We can just go to the beach, you know, get through the airport lines. But for me, it always hits me when I have to go back, and then I see the OFW lines and NAIA.
Right.
And then I can just see their faces suffering from like, not suffering, but you know, it's like, oh shit, like I'm gonna have to go back to where I have to go, and I don't know when I'm gonna come back, when I'm gonna gather enough money to come back. And for that blogger to say that just shows me like she doesn't have any empathy. Yeah. You know, but for every one of those bloggers, there's tons of people out there who just are good, who take care of, I don't want to say they're workers, but they're people that they're supporting their family. Yeah. Right. And it sucks, but yeah, it's definitely one of those things where, you know, it shows what that blogger's like upbringing, or you know, she was kind of raised.
Yeah, I mean, and it's sad that she's you know, she just can't put herself in other people's shoes, or like, you just have the foresight, you know. And hopefully this experience will teach her, make her think. Let's just hope. But you're right. There are people who in the Middle East who are very supportive and do take care of their folks or their employees and whatnot. Or
you have the extreme. It's like that's an extreme. It's like you hear about the abuses. Yeah. And it's very sad. And it's like it's sad, but also I think it hurts me more because that could be my cousin. That could be like, you know, that's literally my cousin, who is like my mom's sister's daughter, you know, versus like that. That's a whole parallel. Like, I'm here in America with this opportunity because my parents sacrificed and got here. And then for her, she probably went to the Middle East to kind of pursue the same journey, and she got into that situation. So it definitely hurts.
Right. And I mean, what's great is the fact that like they're finally creating this law. But the thing is, like, the weird thing is, it took this long. Yeah, it took that long. They've been, the Filipinos.
But even with laws in place, I mean, even here in the United States, I mean, this is what, you know, PwC pretty much, you know, fights for is, you know, for people's freedoms and, you know, the rights that are given.
And shout out to the PwC, man. I think the problems don't have to be like, we can see it from like afar in the Middle East or, you know, elsewhere in the world, but it happens here in the States. You know, I mean, my parents were definitely part of it too. I mean, I remember when I was like 11 years old, I remember like just watching my parents kind of really stressed out because they worked for a Filipino home health like person, who was like a boss, who saw it as true capitalism. Was like, oh, I'm gonna take advantage of these people who are kind of going through the immigration process and pay them like kind of above it, so that my margin's a little higher. You know, that's very sad as a business owner, because I would hate to take advantage of my own people like that. Right. That's your own people, and it happens all the time. So, you know, I want to give a shout out to PwC for, you know, taking a little bit of movements of that and kind of, you know, offering a way of like how to get away from that.
Yeah, and I mean, PwC, Filipino Worker Center, is the place where we're filming at. They're sponsoring us to film here, and you're right. They've told me stories, and they have documentation of this, like helping workers out in such cases in home health care, and like not paying them enough. And they also recently helped do a rescue for human traffickers in Las Vegas. So they're doing good things. And going back to what you were saying earlier about like Filipinos and food and your parents, and my favorite experience with Filipino overseas OFWs, or overseas foreign workers, I guess, right? What it stands for. I went to Barcelona. No, I'm sorry. I was going from Barcelona to Madrid for New Year's. It was just spur of the moment. I was backpacking Europe, and I didn't have any hotel to stay in because it was New Year's Eve, right? Yeah. And this Filipino lady was in the seat next to me in the train, and I was like stressing. And then I decided to chat her up, and then I started speaking to her in Tagalog, like, and she was like, "Oh, you're Filipino?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, and I started telling her like, "Oh, I don't know anyone. I just decided on a whim, blah blah blah." And I kid you guys not, when we got off that train in Madrid, she was like, "Come with me. Like, I'll see if I can help you find a place." she walked me around Madrid, gave me a little tour. She was like, I gotta run an errand. Like she did some like money deposits to send back home to the Philippines, and then she took me around downtown Madrid, like bought me lunch at this Filipino restaurant, like, and it was like a fancy Filipino restaurant in Madrid. I wish I could remember the name, but it was like, it's like all tons of Spanish people, and it was like, I saw the menu and I was like, crap, this is expensive, like Filipino food, but it was good.
So where did you end up staying?
And then I ended up staying like almost a block or 2 blocks away from city center. Like we just randomly found a place, and just they had one room left, and I just. No, sorry.
Damn, I see that game, bro.
I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm a damsel in distress. You know what I'm saying?
I'm saying we, as in she helped me find the place.
Say no more, fam. Smooth. Look at that. Say, I can find a place tonight. You know what I'm saying? Kind of long way.
With the big puppet eyes.
I'm just a lost American boy.
I see you fail. Yeah.
When you had said Tito earlier, I was thinking about your like Anthony Bourdain and Tito Tony.
Exactly. That's my boy, Tito Tony.
You
know what I'm saying? I think, first of all, rest in peace to Anthony Bourdain. I think, a lot of Filipinos contest, not even Filipinos, a lot of countries, like citizens. I love it. It's just like when he goes to the Philippines, he shows the true Philippines. Yeah, man. And the most recent one he had for Parts Unknown, he visited a house, right? And it was when one of the lolas like kind of taking care of them, and didn't really tell like why they went there. He's like, oh, this is food. It started raining, and then I love Parts Unknown because when that piano starts playing, it's like an episode of Malala Mokoya. You're like, yo, tears about to come, fam. Like,
it's about to get drama.
And then he's like, the reason why we're here is because my director, this was her nanny growing up, and it's like. And then the way he segmented that, talked about how like millions of overseas Filipinos go overseas to pursue a job and send money back. I mean, this still happens now, but it's so true. And I love how he sheds light on that and always promotes like Filipino food. He doesn't he won't. The Philippines. I went back this March, right, and with my wife, it was the first time. She went there for the first time, and she saw that too. She was like, wow. Why is like there's an innate thing that Filipinos do where they try to help you out, and forget about the negativity you're gonna experience. Whatever, there's anywhere you're gonna have negativity experience,
right?
But the feeling of being a good host, or just like showing people a good time, or showing them where to go eat, and also inviting them to go eat is something that's innate in a lot of Filipinos. Yeah. And then Anthony Bourdain highlighted that, and so. It was like, so I'm always thankful for the way that he shed light, not only like Filipinos in general, but Filipino food.
Because it shows a lot of the human connection and just and everything that we know as Filipinos, what it's like. And I don't know why there's because I was born and raised in Germany before coming to the States, and kind of the same thing, all the Filipinos like stuck together, and every birthday party, every Christmas, every holiday, whatever it is, it's always the same foods. And then Walter and I were, both veterans in the military, and so we've lived all over. We've both been to the Middle East, and it's kind of the same thing when you're Filipino and in the military. You find other Filipinos, you find your cousins out there. And they're so helpful and so accommodating, and it's just you're treated like family everywhere you go.
Yeah, I mean, rural parts of Afghanistan. I was there in like some little Ford operating base, and then like the guy who just happens to be running the dining facility was the ex-Navy cook.
And you got the hookup.
Yeah, man. And I was like, I just go find the Filipinos, like, man, Filipinos run the Navy.
I know, because we were both Army, and like we thought there's like Filipinos in there, but then Rodney did it right. Like, he did Navy. Just kidding, go Army.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, because so like military wise, I mean, like one, they need to make a Filipino MRE. Meals ready to eat, right?
Adobo
that'd be
MRE.
good business,
right?
Hey.
Okay, they updated the cookies back in 2011, and they looked a little not PC. Did you get the Patriot cookies?
Oh, the Patriot, yeah.
You should look at them, and you can determine
I'll pay attention more.
They made shapes and stuff, and you're like,
I was just happy that they have the McRib. They have an McRib MRE.
Yeah. So
They have a McRib.
have you ever had an MRE?
No, I actually never. But I have a lot of cousins in the Air Force, so it's like they talk about the experience of MRE.
Whatever. They have like, I was deployed. I was deployed at an Air Force
base. MREs on something about
Lobster. Air Force has like lobster MRE.
Lobster and steak on Fridays. It was overly cooked because when you're overseas, everybody gets sick and stuff. But seriously, like the people who made the food, they're oftentimes. All of ours were from India. I don't know where. Well, you had some Filipinos.
We had Indians and but the boss or like some of the were Filipinos because I think they worked longer in the company more.
Yeah.
And they spoke better English.
Yeah. We had a guy from New York, so he would always be like, the coffee's not hot enough. And I was like, dang. And then I would watch them like exercise and I would count people, how many came in. I picked up side jobs because I got bored. So but anyhow, you definitely should try an MRE.
No, definitely try
and
one.
And then come up with a new plan of how to incorporate it and sell it to, the government. Dude, this is right there.
I might be able to hook you up with that one.
See you later, guys. I'm out.
Oh, dude, and then we could be like the host on like the Armed Forces network.
That's actually great.
Yeah, because there's a need, dude. There's like, oh man,
just a whole line of Filipino MRE.
I got you. I mean,
it's like 4,000 calories a bag.
4,000 calories?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah,
that's easy with Filipino food. Like, you get that.
That's like that's one leche kawali piece.
No sauce.
No mang tomasto. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. All that sodium makes them aggressive soldiers.
Have you ever tried to put Filipino food in MyFitnessPal?
No.
It doesn't work, dude. Like,
I'm sure it's like off the scale
you just gotta take it out. It's like, yo, you're about to have high blood pressure. Fam.
Yeah.
That's all it says back.
Yeah. Dude, so I'm also a nurse. Because I'm so stereotypical. Because I did everything
except
my
the
parents asked
Navy.
me to do. I mean, my family's
Army.
Nurse. Army. And now I totally brain farted. Okay. I remember now. No, because I have had many Filipino patients out there, and everybody's got the same deal. It's all like cardiac disease from high blood pressure, so hypertension, and diabetes. And I mean, everybody. I swear, it's like we're susceptible.
I laugh at it, but I laugh at it now, but it's just true. That's like that's our onset, right? It's like that's what we're high risk of. Yeah. I mean, dude, Filipino food is definitely, I don't want to say to blame, but that's a big part of it. Funny thing is, like, I went back to the Philippines like 3 months ago, and my wife, I went to a restaurant called Manam, introduced my wife to like Filipino food. We can have like small portions, whatever. And I was like, oh, we have try sisig. So she had like one bite. She was like, what is this? This is like hella good.
It's like life changing.
Yeah, we literally ate sisig for like 4 days in a row. It was so bad.
Oh, that's not, someone should have warned her.
She was like, man, my heart feels like it's racing. Like, blood pressure goes up. I'm like, yeah, we got to get some veggies on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you'll end up
dude,
she might break out,
Like, for sure. But sisig's so good though.
Because was your wife American born, and what's her background?
Yeah, so my wife is Vietnamese. Yeah, she was born in Texas. So like, the good thing about Texas, I'm sure it's like a lot of people. It's very diverse, especially in Houston.
Well, it's because of the military
It's so
bases.
diverse, and it's like it's almost like when I was in the Philippines, you look for other Philippines. I mean the Philippines. You're like, look at those Filipinos! Oh my god!
And then they're all like the Korean Filipinos out there,
the Chinese Filipinos. Nah, but in Saudi, you look. There's like a lot of Filipinos, right? In Houston, it was like so diverse, but it was like, like
sometimes you can't tell.
I got a story for real. So when I first moved to the United States, I was put in ESL classes, right? I couldn't pronounce the word hippopotamus. I was like hippopotamus. And then like, teacher was like, yo, what the fuck is this? I was like hippopotamus. And then she was like, you're going to ESL class. But then I was like in ESL class, and it was dope because the person sitting next to me was like Vietnamese, Cambodian, Nigerian, El Salvadorian. It was just like a good mix, and we all talked about different foods. We grew up like nobody had hot pockets. Like we brought our own food.
Yeah,
it was dope to share that with a lot of minorities because like that's how you kind of get to know everybody's culture first, like through food, And then after that, you kind of start talking about your different upbringings, your different traditions. So it's
Did you
dope.
understand English when you came to the States?
Yeah, for sure. Like, so when I was in Saudi Arabia, I went to like an international school. So definitely we spoke English. It was like, we started speaking Arabic when I left. So it's like, I know I say shukran, like salam alaikum. That's all you need to know. Habibi, yalla yalla. It was like.
See, I just asked people if they were in pain. And if you needed pain medication.
Yeah. But
I just learned the bad words.
You know the bad words,
I already know which ones.
Yeah.
But it's, like English is here. My English was very proper when I went to Houston. Because
British.
International.
Hello.
Schools are very proper.
Hello.
I kid you not, bro. It's like
that's his most
hippopotamus.
international.
That's how you say it, bro.
English.
Hippopotamus.
And then, man, it's like when I got to Houston, that whole English like changed up. It was like a different English after that.
And depending on what
I've been
part of
suffering ever
Houston
since.
too. Yeah. What was the most surprising part about being on MasterChef?
I think that how much interaction you'd have with the judges.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I hugged like Gordon Ramsay multiple times. It was
just linger there. Just
another
linger.
pause. I'm like, yo, this dude was like real. I remember like walking in. I was like, yo, this dude looks like a wax figure. And the judges this year was like Joe Bastianich, Aaron Sanchez, and Gordon Ramsay. But every time they were like, I remember they debriefed us like, make sure you don't act surprised. As soon as I walked in, I was like, oh snap, that's GR right there, bro. Like this is real. And then I'm out here like fumbling, cooking pancit. But yeah, the most surprising thing was like how real it was. Like when I watched some of the last seasons, I was like, where's the food stylist? Like this has to be like so fake. So I was like, I hope they show you how to plate. But when we got there, it was a cooking show since like day one. People were getting eliminated. I was like, I thought that person was gonna win.
Wow.
But it was definitely a cooking show, and then the interaction you actually have with the judges.
And they have guest judges too.
Yeah, they have guest judges that come through. Many guest judges. And it was, they have a couple of guest judges that come through, but it was mostly like the three main judges were definitely much more interactive this season. They changed it up.
Yeah.
So like for everybody that's watching MasterChef, this season they have like a mentor twist to it, where it's like you don't battle somebody. Like I don't battle these three to get an apron. It's like we all go in there, we cook our dish that represents us, and then if a judge feels like they can bring you all the way to the top, they'll give you an apron.
Oh wow!
So it's not spoiler alert, but I got an apron from Joe Bastianich, one of the most revered restaurateurs. Yeah, restaurateurs in the world. He owns Italy, one of the chains. That's a little, but yeah, it was dope.
How did being on the show change? I guess like your whole, where am I going with this?
Style of cooking, or
I guess because like how did it change your life, and how did it change the way you cook and the way you view food?
Exactly. I'm still very much the same where I'll try food no matter what, but now I think it's much more refined. Even when I'm plating at home, like the first thing I did, after the show was like buy a bunch of plates, because I was like, everything that I do now, I have to plate nice. And it's like, so definitely much more refined in the way that I cook, the way that I plate, and the way that I present it. Cooking like ingredients to its like optimal peak. I don't know if that makes sense. Like cooking ingredients like to the best.
Scientific.
So the best you can cook it, right? It's like
peak of the curve.
Yeah, what I'm saying? It has to be at that optimum peak of like when it's supposed to be cooked. So it's just much more refined, and a lot of that is just from the show, because that's what they judge you on. It's like if this chicken is not properly cooked, it's gone home.
Yeah,
I don't care about the spices and everything. Like, it has to be on the cook, and it's like how do you plate it is very important. So, much more refined after the show for sure.
Because I found it funny in that there was that controversy with MasterChef where they were like they corrected someone on how they
the Malaysian one.
Oh yeah.
And
all these like people were like,
oh god,
like how can you say that? And
I saw that one. It would have been like I would, and I respect that, because like if somebody like for example, we have I can't even think of a dish. All right, chicken adobo. Right, you cook chicken adobo with some of the skin. It's not crispy because it's braised. It's supposed to be braised, and over time you kind of let it reduce and let the oil kind of crisp it up. If somebody who's never really eaten Filipino food tries it and doesn't automatically critiques you like, yo, this skin is not crispy. What the hell are you doing? Of course, like, dude, the pitchforks would come out. All the Filipinos would be like, yo, that dude's dumb. Like they'll be like, hey, you're road. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just get out of here, bro.
Yeah, I had a coworker once. Like we had like at work, it was like I was working in a call center in like college, and this guy was so proud. He was not Filipino. He's proud of how he made adobo. So I was like, cool. I'm really interested in eating it. Like everyone, because it was cultural food, so everyone brought different cultures. So I popped it, got my rice, started scooping his adobo, and I was like, look, color was different. But I'm like, oh, whatever, then I'll try it. Eat it. I swear, I put it in my mouth, and I was like, what is this?
Wait, what did he put in it?
Instead of just regular white vinegar or spicy vinegar, he put apple cider vinegar.
Oh, bro.
And I was like, no.
That's interesting. That's different.
No, it does not work. Bro. He was trying to be unique. Like, no, dude, it did not work.
do you like what, like, more traditional Filipino food, or do you like kind of like a more like modern fusion version?
I love traditional Filipino food.
Me too.
I'm like, you know, but I do appreciate the more modern Filipino food. But to tell you the truth, if you get traditional food, plate it like a certain way, you don't need to change it.
Yeah.
You know, like a good kare-kare, it can be a good kare-kare. Like just the way it is, like but just refine it and keep it the same ingredients. Where, like, for example, for kare-kare, right? A lot of people use brisket and oxtail.
Yeah.
If you cook that oxtail properly, and then for the brisket, if you use a sous vide to make sure it's tender, it's still the same ingredients. Maybe just refining all the ingredients, refining the way you cook it. It's gonna be hella bomb, and there better be some bagoong in there.
Yes.
Whether it's like bagoong oil or it's on the side, that's how you make it really good. And so I'm team traditional, but I have mad love for. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm definitely team traditional, but I have mad love for modern Filipino too.
Well, I think also like Filipino food is great. It's just that in some Filipino places, it's not the high end meat or material, right? Like if you really get real fresh ingredients, and like whether it's meat or vegetables, and you mix it, it's awesome. Like it's great. It's gourmet,
it's fresh
food. Like, and I've been fortunate enough to go when I visit the Philippines, and I have I hang out with my family members. You always have that one rich like family member, right? So I go hang out. They take me out to like some of the nice places and like these gourmet, and you get to taste the real gourmet Filipino food, and you're just like, hot damn, this is good.
Because a lot of it's the preparation, it's the love that goes into it. Like, if you try to shortcut Filipino food, it's not gonna be good. But if you know when to put in the vegetables, you know how to braise, how long to braise the stew for, how to cut the meat. Like, for example, dinuguan, right? I love my dad's dinuguan. I'll go to a lot of carinderas, like I don't even touch the dinuguan, just cause I can look at the way that the meat was cut.
Yeah.
The way that the blood wasn't like filtered. It's like you can just like it looks hella coagulated. Coagulated, yeah. Yeah, we gotta edit that part. Yeah, it looks hella.
It's that proper international school coming out.
Yeah, hippopotamus. That fucking dude looks hippopotamus looking at going on there. But it's that's the way it is, man. It's like how you refine it. A lot of it is love. Like, I love to do beef steak all the time, right? For a lot of my non-Filipino friends, and the cheap way to do, not cheap way, the quick way to do a beef steak, just cook it like really quick, like a cornstarch slurry, and then put it in there, and it'll be good. But if you actually take your time and like the marinade
overnight, let it
it's like you don't need to do anything, just let it cook. And it's like a fine line between being beef steak and tapa. And if you cook the onions just right,
put
it over
just
rice.
Let it
it's
caramelize.
Hella bomb, bro.
Yeah,
like it's hella good.
I mean, just dinuguan alone, like I try to make that's harder than it looks. Like just burning the blood, like it's tough. It's skill for the people who can actually do dinuguan like just right. Like, but I do love tinumis actually more than dinuguan.
Which one?
Tinumis.
I don't even know what tinumis is.
Tinumis is it's basically like dinuguan, but they use sampalok. They add sampalok in it, so it's a little more tangy, and they put like quality, better pieces of meat in it.
Yeah, well, it's like dinuguan. It's like, well, tamarind is the main sour agent, right?
Yeah.
because I mean, it's for tamarind is like we use guava. So it's a lot of like, or even like calamansi. It's like our main sour agent for a lot of our food, and tamarind can turn a sinigang fire. Like versus like when people use like packets.
Yeah,
I'm guilty of that. Yeah, I'm guilty. I use that once in a while. But then you put that tamarind in there, bro, and it's like it's game changer.
Okay, I have a top 3 question for you.
Hell yeah.
Top 3 Filipino restaurants in Houston.
In Houston? Oh, that's a tough one, dude.
Or Texas. I'll say Texas.
Dude, that's a tough one. I've of course I'm gonna give Filipino food in Texas is probably best, homemade. But in Houston, I gotta give a shout out to. It sucks because like Jerry's Grill just opened up there, and that's just pretty good. It beats out a lot. It beats out a lot. I'm not gonna lie, it beats out a lot. Tony's Grill, and then the last one I'd have to say is there's a Pampangan's Finest in like one of the strip malls in Verhua.
Yeah,
that one's pretty good. But most of the time, you can always a lot of it. But the rest are kind of very similar. Where it's like it's good Filipino food for the masses.
What about top 3 Filipino restaurants in Los Angeles?
It's in LA. Mm-hmm. This one's a good question. Of course, Lhasa is going to be one of the top 3s because I love what they're doing. It's just like they brought it, to America, like not America to like the forefront.
Yes.
Irenia's in OC.
I think that was actually. Have you been there?
No, I haven't been there.
That was in this, and that one doesn't get a lot of shine. But dude, theirs is hella bomb. I would actually put that restaurant over Lhasa.
Ooh.
Yeah, okay, guys, road
Battle.
trip.
I'm dead for real. The last one, I'd probably have to say, just because I tried it today, Tatang's.
Yeah.
North Hollywood, bro.
Tatang's.
Bro, Tatang's is on point. Y'all be sleeping on Tatang's. That's the underdog.
It is the healthiest Filipino food that I have found in Los Angeles. It's like all organic and it's so delicious and fresh. And you see all the fresh ingredients too when you walk in, like all their vegetables that they're using that day.
Exactly.
And they're such great hosts. They take the time.
Yeah, I'm gonna have, so shout out to Tatang's, Irenia's.
Tatang's
I
is
feel
in
like
North Hollywood.
Irenia's, and then Lhasa, just for what they do, for sure.
Rick, what's your 3 favorite dishes? Not even Filipino, dishes.
Dishes?
Yeah, just food. What's
How
your
about
3?
Filipino first?
Okay, let's go Filipino food.
Okay, kare-kare is my number 1 favorite. I'm obsessed with kare-kare. The next one's actually tortang talong.
Yeah.
And then a good tapsilog.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like, but there's ulam is like my absolute ulam favorite is kare-kare. Like I said, tortang talong is like, man, every time tortang talong would like, one time I went like a buffet that tortang talong, I ate like 7 in a row. Yeah, of course. And a good tapsilog is like, that's a good sign of a good place because the sinigang has to be on point.
Yeah.
The way that the egg is cooked is on point. But then the marinade and how, all the love that went to making that tapa is a good like indicator of how good that restaurant is. So, but all time dishes. Okay, this is gonna be crazy, but my number 1 is actually chicken shawarmas.
Oh, really?
I'm obsessed with chicken shawarmas. And that's my childhood dish.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, what's your childhood dish? I'm like, bro, chicken shawarmas. Like, they asked me like, what would you do? Like, you open up a Filipino restaurant in LA? I'm like, hell no, I'm starting chicken shawarma joint. I still don't know what the name of it, but that's like one of my favorite dishes. I like simple food. I mean, I'm not gonna do like non-Filipino. The next one's actually Vietnamese banh mi.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love Vietnamese banh mi. Like, dude, I could shout out to Houston because they got a
bunch
of bomb ass banh mi's for like less than $5.
So good.
Iced coffee, it's hella bomb. The last one, non-Filipino food. It's always a perpetual list. But Galbi Gym. You guys, so I don't know if you guys have that, but there's a place in LA called Sunong Dan in K-Town. Yeah. Bro, it's like a Filipino. It's closest to a caldereta.
Ooh.
It's like it has pretty much like a beef short rib, potatoes and carrots. Bro, you can't go wrong with a Galbi Gym. So I mean, my top 3 is always gonna change, but right now for sure, like, dude, those are amazing.
I'm like seriously so hungry again.
Yeah.
And we just ate.
Yeah.
Well, now that you guys are all thoroughly hungry and starving after us talking about food, we're going to end it here. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming out and talking with us. Please let the audience know, how can they follow you, how can they stalk you, and what's coming up for you.
Okay, cool. Send some DMs my way on Instagram. No, I'm just saying, thanks for having me today, guys. Instagram, Ralph Degala, but YouTube for sure, Ralph Xavier. I'm going to be building out a lot more content as soon as the show ends. So please look out for me over there. Also, I'm going to have a lot of pop-ups coming up soon in LA and also Houston. But the long run, Chicken Shawarma Spy will be coming soon.
Oh,
so I want to give a shout out to Alvin Kailan for Egg Slut. That egg sandwich is hella bomb. And, I'm working on a chicken shawarma sandwich that might be just as good. So,
Oh, dang.
thank you. And shout out to the Filipino food movement. Much love in Mabuhay.
Awesome. Well, thank you for watching us and thank you for listening. I'm Walter Talents.
And I'm Arlene de la Pena.
And you guys are watching Philam Creative's Voices.
Yes, sir.
This episode is also sponsored in part by Chiri Chiri Vegan Filipino Ice Cream. This LA-based pop-up shop specializes in vegan-friendly and, for some, nostalgia-inducing Filipino flavors like calamansi lime, baja blanca, a creamy, rich coconut pudding with sweet corn. Follow Chiri Chiri on Instagram and Facebook to see where they'll pop up next. Chiri Chiri Ice Cream, the Philippines in a cone. This episode is sponsored in part by Eat, Play, Move, LA's first Filipino Angelino food festival. Eat, Play, Move is back on October 27th, 2018, and is even bigger and better with tons of unique photo ops, a musical stage, dishes from some of LA's most innovative chefs, and much more. Get your tickets now with the link below, and join us at Eat, Play, Move, the largest celebration of Filipino Angelino culture. And now, a special interview with our sponsor, J.R. Martin, chef and owner of Tatang Restaurant.
Hi, I'm Arlene de la Pena.
I'm Walter Talents.
And you are watching and listening to Film Creative Voices. And we have J.R. Martin from Tatang, which is a Filipino organic restaurant here in North Hollywood, which is phenomenal, by the way. It's so good.
Yummy. Yeah, thank you for coming to our show. And thank you for sponsoring Philam Creative's Voices.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be a part of this fantastic project.
So how long has Tatang been open?
Pretty new. We're about 8 months.
Oh, wow.
You guys, it's like the healthiest Filipino food I've ever had in my life. Because we've been talking to, other Filipino creatives here in Los Angeles, and we always talk about how heavy and how unhealthy Filipino food can be. And you're the one restaurant that I have found here in Los Angeles that is actually purely organic. It's the healthiest. You can see all the food right there that's fresh. And so how did you start off and decide to have your own restaurant?
I grew up with a very large family. Tatang, my grandfather, had 16 children. And I grew up in the kitchen cooking for the family with the family. So that combination with me liking the production of food, I just became a chef just because I thought it was easy.
So you're saying it came organically. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist.
What number are you out of like all the...
My mom is the oldest of the 16.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I have over 50 cousins.
Whoa.
Can you name them all?
Not off the top of my head.
I feel like with a family that big, like you have to, it's a necessity to know how to cook because it's not feasible to, always go out to eat. And so what was the first Filipino dish that you ever made?
Rice. You got to learn that real quick when you're young. It's just something to have as a staple.
What's your signature dish at Tatang's?
I'd probably say our chicken sisig.
Dude,
Everyone
so
has a pork version, and I wanted to really try to give something that kind of was representative of the Los Angeles crowd. People really like chicken, and I wanted to give that and pay homage to Los Angelinos who were not so crazy about pork, but would still be open to a sisig dish.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, just the options. There was like the garlic rice. I love the ribs, man. The
Thank
ribs
you.
is
Dude,
awesome.
Yeah, I know. The meat just like fell right off. Like it was so tender
Yeah.
and amazing.
But I'm kind of curious, like, what made you? What was there something specific that happened that you're like, I'm gonna make it organic or organic Filipino food, or like, you know, or is it just because we're in LA? Like, what was the inspiration for you specifically?
I thought long and hard about the menu that we were currently offering, and before we even came up with something finalized, I wanted to make sure that Filipino food or Filipino American food had an opportunity to not be pigeonholed.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of, I guess, history with Filipino food being, I guess, on the lower end in terms of fast food, unhealthy food.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that. I wanted something that would be... I wanted something my grandparents would be proud of. I wanted something that people would say, hey, you know what, I want to bring my parents over to try this style of healthier eating. And that's kind of what happened.
So for our audience, just let them know how they can find your restaurant. Where's that? What's your social media?
You can follow us on Instagram at Tatang_Noho. And we're also on Facebook. Just look us up, TATANG.
And what's the address of the restaurant?
10829 Oxnard Street, North Hollywood 91606.
Do they need reservations or anything like that?
We highly recommend reservations. We fill up quite quickly, and it doesn't hurt to just give us a call and ask about our menu. We'd be very happy to text you our menu.
Dang.
Awesome.
I'm going to go check it out. Hopefully you guys can go check it out. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sponsoring us. We really appreciate you. I'm Walter Towns.
And I'm Arlene De La Pena.
And thank you for watching and listening Phil Am Creative's Voices.